And we are live! Yay! Hello, everybody. I'm here with
Hello.
the amazing Jill Tulloch. Tulloch?
Yes.
And thank you so much for joining me today, Jill. I'm so excited to talk about kids and having their voice in the world. We were just talking before we got on here, and I'll just fill everyone in that I've been looking at this. So with Access Consciousness, there's a specialty called Right Voice for You. And I'm going to be going to one this summer in Kelowna. And my kids are going to come. And I've been really looking at where, you know, in certain ways, their voice has been stifled. In certain ways, their voice has been empowered. I've been looking at all these things and wanting to have this conversation. It wasn't until I saw your beautiful daughter, Kaya. I just adore her. And you posted a video of her singing. And I just became so aware of kind of the gift that you've been in her world. And probably, I'm guessing, the tools have been, because for a child to go up and just sing like that, she was on a stage, you know, that she had a microphone, like it amplifies your voice, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And boy, was she terrified.
So what was that like? Did you, how did you get her to move beyond the fear?
Yeah, it's interesting because at home, she's quite the performer. And then it was like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do this, Mom. I don't know if I can get up there. It's a stage. I don't know if and it's funny because she was actually asking to be back up on the stage. She had an experience when she was like 3 doing a performance, but she was with people. So she's like, I'm going to be alone. And yeah, so we actually did use a few tools. I was like, okay, expand out, right? Like take a deep breath and expand out. And, you know, really talking about like, what is it that you can share that no one else can share, Kaya? Like, what is it that you have to offer, right? That I'm not really sure which one helped or worked, but she was terrified, but she did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And she did it with presence, you know, like she was there.
Yeah. It was really cool. She's like, it was a really interesting process to see her go through because ever since that night, actually, her confidence has increased a lot, actually, in a few different areas. So it's been kind of interesting to see the change since that. Like, it was like, okay, I did it. I didn't die.
Yeah, that reminds me. I was watching this video of this little girl. I think she was 10 or something, and she's so brilliant. And she said, she goes, confidence isn't something you're born with. Confidence is something you choose. I was like,
wow.
What? And and so her father's an international speaker, like he's big time. And so he would let her though through the conferences. So there are hundreds, sometimes thousands of people come up and she would give like a little speech or come and talk. And she said at first it was terrifying, like that, but it was smaller groups of people. And she goes, but every time I did it, I knew that I could do it. So I kept just choosing more and choosing more.
Yeah. And so true. It is a choice, isn't it? Like you can choose to be completely terrified or you can choose to just do it. It's like, it really is a choice.
Yeah.
So
how's it been for you? Have you always been confident? Have you been like no?
Oh God, I was so shy as a kid. I actually kind of laugh. It probably took, I would be extroverted, but only with people I really knew well, you know? So then I was like this extreme extrovert that was always too much and too crazy and too loud and too talk about being told you're too much. Right. And then within a crowd of people I didn't know, I would completely actually shift to the other side. So probably, it took quite a few years to get to there where it was like, really, who cares? Right.
Yeah.
Get past that level of just not being able to speak publicly. I don't know, like, I mean, would I get up on a stage like Kaya did and sing like that? I think that does take bravery no matter what the age. Right. So but no, it wasn't always easy for me in any situation. Probably something like this 20 years ago would have terrified me, you know?
Oh yeah, a Facebook Live. Yeah. Yeah.
which it didn't exist 20 years ago, but still.
But if it did.
If it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you look at, so what we talked a little bit about what you shared with Kaya, the tools that you were using. Now, Jill as this little girl, okay, years ago, if she had those tools, how do you think you'd be today? Like, would you be different?
Yeah, interesting question for sure. Like, I think I would have, all those years of judgment and just the world that I really grew up in. Really, when you asked to even do this live, like, how much were our voices really stifled? Like, we were really taught as kids to kind of, now my family was a little different. We were allowed to express, or we just did express regardless. But was I made wrong for that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've really been mindful with that now, because I just think, like, how would life be so different if I was really encouraged to use that voice? I remember using my voice in all kinds of ways and really being told not to do it.
Oh, can you share more?
Like, I remember writing a letter to the newspaper about something that I found very wrong when I was like 10 or 11 years old.
I
was very passionate about it. I was like, this is not okay. And it was about a neighbor of ours had shot a cougar and was very proud of it. And I was heartbroken and very angry. And I thought, that one line I remember writing is, if we can figure out how to get to the moon, we can figure out how to coexist with nature. I was just so angry. I was like 10 or 11.
Wow.
And my dad phoned the little old Kelowna newspaper and said, do not print that. Whatever happens, if you get that, do not print it. I mean, it's so insignificant. And I see his reasons for doing it. He didn't want to upset our neighbors. Yeah. But I was so angry. I'm like, I have something to say. And anyway, just very interesting how these little things like that really bothered me. I thought, like, that's my right to express my opinion of, like, to me, that was very wrong, what was going on. So it's so funny. Those little things have, perhaps, like, what was the impact of that over the next how many years? Who knows? How much did that slow me down? So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so powerful to look at your own upbringing, not obviously from like judging it or making it wrong, but noticing, these things. And then how would I like to be with my kids? And I grew up very much like seen, not heard, be polite, put your head down. Like, and so my oldest, he's on the spectrum, autistic. And so he doesn't always have a filter.
Yeah.
And he's learned to say no offense before he's about to say something really offensive. So he'll say no offense, and then he'll say something that's completely offensive to people. Yeah. And there's this interesting place as a parent, right? Of like, should I be training him to hold back his voice, to not say what's true for him? Should I be letting him say whatever he wants and just hurting everyone's feelings, like leaving a landmine,
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm so grateful for these access tools and exploring this with him. And Absolutely. So I'll just tell you, so what I have been doing really has been asking him, what does that create?
Yeah.
So allowing him to kind of, and then him to observe, well, they got really upset. Yeah, I did notice that too. Okay, cool. And just kind of like exploring it with him in a way where he's not wrong. He has a voice. He wants to express it, but also aware of that our voice actually creates something in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and empowering him to acknowledge the power of his voice rather than him stifling it because I'm uncomfortable, that this person is really uncomfortable. I just fucking pod myself because I am like super uncomfortable.
Of course. And I mean, how often as our kids grew, kids say really wild things sometimes. And it's natural to be like, oh my God, nope, stop, just no, like, right? I think that's just an instinctual thing. And something I had to become aware of. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, really, who cares? So who cares if she's yelling in a store? Like, maybe it doesn't make everyone comfortable, but it's like, how much more constriction am I creating by trying to make her stop? Like, what is that creating in my world and her world?
Yeah.
Or ease? Probably not.
But we think it's more ease. I love that you said that, because we think, oh, it'd just be easier if they would just be quiet right now.
Yes.
Yeah. But really, it's not that, because the being contracted is never easier.
No, and we're trying to make them be quiet. So now they're uncomfortable, we're uncomfortable. And it kind of backfires, doesn't it? I learned that when Kaya was young, she would just scream in a store. And I'm like, oh, and you just want to like, everyone stops and looks. And when you're so aware, it's even like 10 times louder. It's like, oh my gosh. And then really just being able to have allowance for that was like, is not the easiest thing as a parent, but just seeing what those two choices can create too, right? Like, it's quite interesting.
So what are some tools you've used to like go beyond that as a parent? Like, are you doing interesting point of view, or what are you doing to be okay with it?
It's, there's moments I'm probably like still learning of, what tool would create, like, what do I need here? What do we both need? Because I do have a very, Kaya has a voice. She has some things she wants to bring to this world. She is not a quiet child, but nor was I. So it's really quite interesting to be faced with such similar, it's like, I really thought it would be easy to react differently. Like, what would I require? So probably learning to have allowance, like you said, to just allow her to experience what these choices will create, and learning not to react so much to it. I find that the hardest.
Yeah.
And then just, just helping her explore exactly like you were saying, well, if you make a choice to do this or, say this or whatever, these are the consequences, or this is what this choice will create. It is not always easy, but I've had to become very mindful of it, because I think that it's something really lacking. When you look back at our generation, the generation before us, like, it wasn't that long ago. Like, our parents' generation, like, you were to be seen and not heard.
Yeah.
I feel like this is just still very prevalent in our world, right? And so I really wonder what we can create, like really allowing our children to have a voice from a young age, not finding it when they're 30. What would it be like if if our kids found that at age 12, 13, 14 and really felt that confidence,
Yeah. To know that what you have to say is valuable at any age, I think is such a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I see even, as a facilitator now, have, group class, like live classes or online classes. And you notice those people that they want to say, but they somewhere in them, they're like, is it important enough? Am I valuable enough? Like, should I be talking? Like, they're holding back so much. Yeah. And it's like, I want to go and pluck out, like, whatever age it was where you bought, like, that you couldn't say that it wasn't valuable, that you don't matter.
Yeah.
So what would the world be like with a bunch of kids that were actually honored in that way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even as young children, like, I mean, it's easy to just dismiss what they have to say or contribute. And then I've caught myself in those moments and going, oh, wow, okay, no, actually, and kind of tuned back in and said, like, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about this? And to really validate that, like, her being should have as much contribution to what's going on. Age shouldn't really matter. She's just turned 7, but it's like, what would it be like if we really honored these little beings and what they have to contribute? Because I felt like I had a lot to contribute at that age. I just don't know if the adults felt that way.
Me too. At age 8, I'm like, I think I should run the world.
Right? I think we'd be in a better place if 8-year-olds were running the world. Oh, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is so the title I titled this like what's the value of having of allowing a child to have their voice. So what do you sense, what's some of what have you already seen with Kaya, the value in her life of you not stifling her, of you not telling her she's too much, of you not contracting her?
Wow. You know, it is interesting because she's changing in these last couple of years so much. So I'm noticing her shifting to social pressures more, that I was like, wow. You know, it just creates for her, I think, where she feels like her contribution matters, like where she, I think, naturally will be a leader. That's just the type of kiddo that she is, and that's fine. And I want to encourage that. But it's like, I'm really curious. I'm really curious to see what she will create with, like, what her contribution to the world will be and how different that could happen by allowing her to feel like she can express it without judgment, because I think there's just, the world is so full of judgment.
Yeah.
And I see that starting in school right now, in our little homeschool pod, even like she's so aware. Oh, Mom, I can't do that. Mom, I can't wear that. And I'm like, no, be weird, because she was so good being the weirdo. And I see that changing already. And it's been interesting. I get a little triggered by it because I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't want to wear that weird thing to school that you would have wore like 6 months ago, because you're already seeing the judgment happen. So really kind of working through those, like, well, who cares? And even in our school, we've talked about how being different is like almost like, what can you create by being the person that's different? And it's not wrong.
Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting. It's an interesting journey to see, because I really am, I think naturally at this age, they start to become aware of the judgment. So I find how she is at home is quite different than how she is with her peers. But, you know, it's that really tuning in to like, having her know, like, have that comfortability to really stand true to who she is, because isn't that what we want to create with our kids, regardless, that they feel like they can tune into their own compass, right? And always stand true no matter what the judgment is around them.
Yeah. What would it take? I'm like, yeah, that. I remember before I became a mom, I worked with kids for years and years. And it was doing like after school care and summer camps at the YMCA. And they required us to, I loved it so much.
Wow.
I just got like a hint of a creative idea. I was like, oh, we should tuck in. But so we had to do constant like training and courses and stuff. And so we took this particular course with this woman. And so she starts off, and I just loved her. So she has like a piece of paper, and she goes, okay, I want you to tell me all the things, like all the kids in your care, what traits would you like them to have as when they're adults? And it was like leader, game changer, like all these things. Like we want them to have this and the freedom and to be a contribution to the world, like all this stuff, right? She writes all this stuff down, and everyone's like, yeah, we want all these things. And then she goes, okay, so how many of you love when your kids challenge you or argue with you? And my hand flew up, and I'm like, and then I'm like, oh, no one else's hand. I'm like, oh, that's awkward. Because no, everyone's like, no, I want she's like, so what do you want your kids to be right now? We want them to listen. Yeah. We want them to follow instruction immediately. Mm-hmm. We want like all of these. So then she wrote down all those things. And she said, if these kids are like this, how do you expect them to be these adults?
Yeah.
And it was like, oh no. So we want them to be sheep now and leaders later?
Yes. This is exactly my issue with the school education system right now. And so we have an alternative school, and this is where I'm really, I was contemplating putting Kaya back into public school. it makes my whole body, because I really feel like it's so designed to exactly. And I mean, as a parent, I'm guilty of it too. It does create more ease when she just follows direction. My child, unfortunately, really doesn't follow direction the way I would like her to.
Yeah.
So it's been fascinating because I literally have to ask about 20 times for the same thing, and she's just in her world. So it's been really interesting. Okay, Kaya, how do we do this then? How do we both get what we want at the end of this morning when you need to accomplish this?
Yeah.
And anyway, so what you say is so pertinent, because I feel like as parents, we can do that. And then we have a whole education system that is unfortunately not always there to cultivate the voices of these children. It's really sit down, shut up. This is what we're going to teach you. This is who and what you have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just feel like I think because I struggled in it, I'm just like, it's my own thing, but I really feel like this is where we need change on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually withdrew, like Xander does homeschooling now because it actually didn't work for him. And one of the difficulties was always that Xander wasn't following all the things. And I actually sat down with the teacher and she said, I'm going to be honest with you. The first 5 years of school is about training kids how to behave so that we can get stuff done. She goes, that's what it is. But he's not training well. And I'm like, yeah, he doesn't do that. He just doesn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
And this is before the whole autism even came into our awareness. Like it was like, oh, this just his personality. Like he's just he's always been vocal, and I've never stifled his voice, so actually this would be a great question to hear your thoughts on. I've had outside sources being like, you need to teach him not to speak that way. You need to like all that outside pressure. And I've been like, okay, thank you for your point of view. Like for me, it was never light. Have you ever received that from outside sources? Like with Kaya, if she's loud or being much like,
yeah. And I have been the oppressor, in the moments where I'm like, okay, and again, I think that's more from my own, that was my fear of judgment, perhaps, or also realizing the struggles of really being a parent. Sometimes it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go, but absolutely, there is an insane amount of judgment on how kids should behave. I've experienced that a lot, and it's been really hard because I actually for a while really tried those ways. I thought, okay, that's it. You know what? Yep. Let's crack down and really get a system and a schedule and organize. It backfired beyond belief. It made me the most miserable person. I was actually in a relationship where it was like a lot of judgment on her behavior and how things were. And so I altered things. It didn't work. And so when I took a break and said, oh my God, I can't do this. She sometimes will sit and eat dinner perfectly at the table, but a lot of times she likes to get up and we'll have a little dance party during dinner. I had way more fun doing it my way.
Yes, I like the dance party. I'm coming to dinner with you.
I'm tired of rules, and I went like, who says we have to sit and do this way? Because it makes you comfortable. Yeah. Well, it makes us uncomfortable. So Access has opened up this amazing world of like, wow, do we ever judge everything as right and wrong?
Yeah.
And when you remove that and you go, what else is possible here? Like, can we eat dinner and have a bit of a dance party? I mean, yeah, we can. And nobody got hurt. And there was just such expansive joy. It's just, you know what I mean? It's so funny how anytime I've really tried to box Kaya into this reality, it completely backfires. So it's been interesting.
It's like, and it's painful to me too. Like, so I'm like, it's not worth it anymore.
That's what it is. I'm sure you've tried it too as a parent, going, okay, we're just going to do it. Because you're just at your wit's end sometimes. And then it's like, I don't think people like you and me came on this planet to do it like everybody else. So when you really go, wow, can we just be the difference? And what can we create for these children? Like I went, oh my God, I'm going against everything I couldn't stand as a child. So what am I doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the question. I just want to highlight it if anyone's watching this later and they're like, that, what a great tool. When you said, hey, Kaya, how can we do this so that you get what you need and I get what I need in the morning? You were talking about that. You worded it a little differently, but that's a tool that I use a lot too. I'm like, okay, Xander, so we are clashing right now.
Yeah.
I desire this and you desire this. Or even my littlest, my 9-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm like, so do you like, and including them, which is part of having their voice for me, like including them. I'm like, okay, so what do you have any ideas? What can we create here together? And sometimes, I don't know if you notice this, sometimes my kids don't have specific ideas or words, but the energy of their voice will show up when I include them. Like, okay, so I require this, you require this. What can we create together? And there'll be an energy will show up. Do you find that like sometimes Kaya doesn't even have words, but like an energy will show up?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting because obviously they don't think the way we do when it's like, and I've realized how much I'm trying to make her, fit into this very linear, this. I'm like, would I want to be like spoken to or told this is how it's going to happen? So it's like, okay, I don't really care how it happens, but this is what needs to happen. Yeah. And it's a different energy that really, it just creates so much more ease for both of us. Because that's been a huge thing for us this year is like, how do we get out of the house on time without a fight? And it's like, so time might not exist in your world, but it is a little bit of a thing that is required. And so, it's like really, I agree with you. It's like having her contribute to that and allowing her that voice of like, well, this is how I need to do it, Mom. Or yeah. And just, how easy it is to go onto autopilot like humans do and just, not include them. I think it's just the way our society functions. And I'm guilty for falling into it. So I'm really trying to be more aware of that specifically.
Yeah. But you're also, you're a leader for this change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you.
I feel like there's just a massive change required. And I really feel as easy as it would be to just throw her into the system, it would create more ease in my world in a way. I feel like it would take one incident for me to just pull her from that, because I feel like it honestly, unfortunately, our school system can really destroy some of our most precious, like, children on this planet that are here to create bigger change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like something different is required.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful. There are actually quite a few teachers I know that use the Access tools, and they have that passion too, and that desire to create something different for kids. And it really seems like now's the time that there's something, like, we're not there yet, but it's like, it's rising, right?
It's beginning. Yes. Yes.
Really
even our teachers, they come from the traditional system, but they wanted more, and they wanted more for their classroom. And they were more than open to have bars brought into the school and have used the tools. Even today, we lost our space, and she's like, what do I say? What is it? What else what else is possible? How does it get any better than this? And it was so cute for her to pull the tools out. And I was like, yes. So, because that's another thing I'm really trying to help Kaya understand is using these tools. Like, I want her to understand, like, she's the creator of her world as well.
Yeah.
And that's really important. And I think if we were taught that as children, how different would your life be if you knew you actually had power of some kind? Because we are told, you grow up. I mean, I felt really powerless as a kid.
Yep. Same.
Wow. So like, what if these kids had the tools?
Yeah. And the power, going to the voice thing again for a second, like actually acknowledging the power of their voice and not making it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether it's the power to like create upset, the power to manipulate, the power to melt someone's world with kindness. Like there's, a power that voices have.
Yeah.
You can be your voice without judging you. People are going to judge you. But if you're not judging you, oh my God, then you can create anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, what would it take for that to become part of the curriculum in school?
Could you imagine? There's like, we do right voice for you from 9 to 8, then we do right body for you, and then we do like
I feel something in the air.
conscious horse, conscious rider, and then we're gonna do
I think it's just magical. I think what a different planet would we have if even 25% or 20% of the kids on the planet had any awareness of these tools. It's just like, wow, the expansiveness, and that's really the age we are shifting into. And so I think that's why some of these kids are here.
Yes.
To lead the way.
Absolutely. Chantel's here. She says hi.
Hi.
I don't think you can see, but yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jill. This was such a cool conversation.
And thank you.
And I'm just so grateful to see everything you've been creating with Kaya and the school and with your school and how it's affecting all the other kids, probably like in these even unspoken ways, So thank you for being a leader for this new.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having this conversation that I think is so required on the planet right now. Yeah.
All right. And thanks everyone for listening. Bye for now. Oh, and if anyone wants information about Right Voice for You, there'll be a link in the description somewhere. Bye.